that makes me run cold when I think about that one afterwards, because he was on his own at the bottom of that hill upside down, and he'd broken his knee, and he had to get out of that car that was upside down, and a supercar window is like, a letterbox.
Jimmy Clarkson, Richard Hammond and James May, which began on Top Gear in 2002. Behind the scenes for all these years has been their executive producer, Andy Wilman. Mr. Wilman, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Very good to speak to you. How are you feeling today?
We watched the sort of cut down version with the press on Tuesday night, and I did have a cry. I must admit, I did have a cry, and I thought all that was done. I thought I'd done all my crying when we called for a wrap, and in the salt flats on the last part of the day. But there was still a bit more crying to do. So today, what will I do? Will I be on social media looking at what people think of the film? Absolutely not. Of course I will. And I'll be, hunting around like that. But I do sit here comfortable in the knowledge that we did the right thing to end 100%. That would, because it was our choice. And I think we've always had this feeling that it's very rare to go this long and then call time on your own program without some executive wanting to do it for you, and we managed to do it ourselves. So if you've got that opportunity, you take it, to call time on your own stuff.
Yeah. I don't want to be too gushing, but you have made some of my favourite TV of the last 20 years, and I just need to declare an interest in the fact that I absolutely love basically everything you've ever made. So,
really?
100%. So I really appreciate that, and it strikes me that you're saying it was your choice to kind of end this thing. There were moments of the last 22 years where that choice looked like it was being taken away from you. It has been bumpy at moments.
I don't know what you mean. I'm baffled. Yeah. Yes, there were moments. There were moments, and really tricky moments. But we don't sit around having hug-ins, but we kind of knew that we would stay together and get on with carrying on once we'd picked ourselves up and dusted ourselves off. But yeah, we've had, so BBC fallouts, big accidents, enough moments, 2 or 3 moments when it could have all ended without our choosing. Luckily, we got through them all.
Yeah.
I think all those battle wounds, scars, whatever you might call them, are just sort of fitting for the kind of show this was, where we did try and, do our own stunts. Everything, our hearts were on our sleeve. There was volatility when it came up. And then we would pick ourselves up and carry on. It was all part of the fact that the show was so organically developed that it kind of tumbled along from year to year without a big plan. The fact we got so big took us by surprise. It wasn't something that we'd worked out on AI or chat thingy.
Yes.
It just happened.
Yeah. You mentioned some of the moments, you mentioned some of the crashes and things. I just want to play you this from 2017 when Richard Hammond had, the most serious of crashes. So the vehicle bursting into flames. I mean, one of several of Richard Hammond's crashes, Andy, that I imagine you can probably picture happening in your mind's eye.
Sorry, say again.
I imagine you can probably picture some of these crashes even now as we're speaking about them.
Yeah, I wasn't there for the Richard one, but when they got on the phone, there was utter panic because from everybody who was there, because Richard's crashed that one. I personally think that was more of a knife edge crash than his more famous one, the Top Gear one. The Top Gear one, incredibly dramatic, but he had the protection gear on it, and it was an open car. The one in Switzerland, my God, that was on a complete. That makes me run cold when I think about that one afterwards, because he was on his own at the bottom of that hill upside down, and he'd broken his knee, and he had to get out of that car that was upside down, and a supercar window is like, you know, a letterbox opening. And if he had been unconscious, he wouldn't be here, because that car detonated very quickly. So he kind of took his own, he thought, I'm going to wait until somebody comes to get me. I'm okay. And then he thought, no, I'm not okay. I've got to get out of here. So that's the one that actually does make me shiver massively. Although the memories of the first one at Top Gear were horrific, because we suddenly got a huge wake-up call about how much to the edge we'd gone with all the things we were doing, you know, and we were, you really were thinking, my God, this is only television. What are we up to?
Yeah. Can you trace how that happened? That sort of escalation of trying to do more dangerous and more exciting things, which as viewers we were lapping up. You know, we're complicit in driving you to do these sorts of exciting things. Was there a kind of atmosphere of, you know, what is the next sort of extreme thing that we can pull off here?
We didn't sit around going, what is the next extreme thing? But we were, I suppose, Richard said it actually the other night. We became a cartoon at some point, probably faster than we thought we did, where the cartoon, you know, you get like Tom and Jerry when they get an anvil in the face, they're okay like 2 minutes later
Yes.
or 2 seconds later. I think we were, with some of those things, starting to live in a cartoon, and and I suppose we didn't stop. I mean, obviously you take all the safety precautions. You know, Richard, there was an air ambulance. Richard had that Formula One helmet on for that first crash and so on. But yes, there was a bit like, oh, this is crash, bang, wallop, and they're just like cartoon noises when these things happen. And it was the same logic that he would drive that as let's play darts with cars in a quarry with the air cannon that they use in movies to fire cars. You know?
Yeah.
It was exactly the same logic. It was like, right, we're going to muck about today. We're going to be juvenile. Like, and then some of the things were dangerous, and some of the things were just that, like playing darts with cars. And we just thought, well, if we filled out the form and we're okay, we'll with the risky form, we'll be okay. But yeah, there was just, I mean, Jeremy going through that brick wall in a lorry when they were doing their lorry test. They were testing how good their lorries could be. And he drove through a brick wall that we had built ourselves. Yeah. So what do we know about building brick walls would be the question. It turns out nothing. Not you know, we built a proper brick wall, not a sort of stump brick wall. So all the front of the lorry comes up into his ankle. And it's, what can I say? It was not, it was a bit of a cartoon attitude. But we weren't feeling, oh my God, we've got to top that. Oh my God, we've got to top. We didn't think in those terms.
Could anyone on the team suggest ideas? I'm so fascinated about where the big adventures came from and where the kind of challenges came from. I mean, I'm thinking of rushing home every Sunday night to make sure that I could see the next installment of Trying to Destroy a Toyota Hilux. That was a wonderful series. You mentioned, I mean, Botswana is where this Grand Tour finale is, and was I think you consider that to be your first sort of formal, if you like, sort of planned adventure in some ways. I'm also thinking about amphibious cars. I mean, I'm a nerd for radio. I loved when they presented a drive time radio program on BBC Local Radio. It was utterly hilarious. How did was it just a melting pot of people throwing in suggestions?
It really was that. Because we had, I think, if we go right back to 2000, 2002, Jeremy had, I think I've said this a few times, when I met him in the pub, when we were like, he said, I've got some ideas. We're going to try and bring Top Gear back. He had 60, 70% of the format laid down, if you could call it a format, the guests and stuff like that. But there was still a lot of areas to fill in. And then once we'd got the green light to start making the show, we luckily got together a team of people who actually drove each other in terms of where we were going to go. So there was a guy called Jim Wiseman, for example. And I remember, so this is very early days, and I come in one day and he's like putting the phone down. He's like, well, she wasn't happy. And I'm like, well, who's that, Jim? And he went, animal handler. And he's I was just asking if a bear could ever drive a car. And I'm like, well, where are we going with this? And he went, well, you know, bears are like, you see them on like the telly doing all sorts of stuff. Surely one can drive. And then, so he was really annoyed that this woman had sort of threatened to take him to court if he ever rang her again. And then, so he goes around thinking, and he was like, and oh, I know as well. Yeah, his brain just worked in a really weird way. So it was he who said, well, you know, you're always getting bikes jumping a bus, kind of Evel Knievel style. Mm-hmm. He was like, well, how many bikes can a bus jump? And you knew that that was like instantly, that was a fast show moment, because you know it's going to jump no bikes whatsoever. But Jeremy like heard it. He was like, that's what we're doing. We're doing that, because you knew it was a sort of, the punchline was already delivered before the bus set off. So you just fast show away, watched it. But to your point, that was Jim, who was just a researcher on the show.
Yeah.
And everybody kept firing in. It was somebody else who came up with testing the Fiesta, where he went up the beach with the Marines all around it. And we were lucky that we had that group of people. But I think once Jeremy had set the tone, you know, he'd say, can grannies do a donut? Or I want to do a ridiculous road test where things start to go completely off the planet.
Yeah.
Because, and I've invented this imaginary angry reader who just wants a straight road test. Then everyone chipped in.
Yeah.
We all chipped in. And it was a fantastic melting pot at that time.
Yeah.
It really was.
It is totally brilliant, Andy. And, you know, it has continued to be brilliant for decades, literally.